In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, I bear witness there's no God but God, and God is the only one who has the right to be worshipped. I also bear witness that Prophet Moses, Prophet Jesus, and Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon them, are the messengers of God, and I seek refuge in Allah from the rejected Satan. So greetings of peace, and thanks for tuning in. May the peace and blessings of Allah be with you. So we're going to be looking at the coming of Imam Mahdi as well as the second coming of Jesus, peace and blessings be upon them. We're going to be looking at some of the differences between the governments of today and the government of Imam Mahdi as well as Jesus, peace and blessings be upon him. And the two biggest glaring differences that I see is that the governments of today, this generation that we live in, they see themselves as sovereign. They don't see God as sovereign. They see themselves as sovereigns. They see each other's governments as sovereign. And if you don't know what sovereignty means, it means the supreme power, supreme authority. So they don't see God as the supreme. They don't see God as the omnipotent, the all-powerful. They don't see God as the sovereign who has perfect control of all things, who regulates all the affairs. All laws, commandments come from Allah, and we're all subject to Allah's divine laws. So the second thing that I see that's going to be very different in the time of Imam Mahdi as well as the second coming of Jesus and the rulership, peace and blessings be upon them, will be the use of gold and silver as legal tender. Now, about since the early 1970s, the President of the United States, Nixon, took the American dollar off the gold standard, and now we've been over the last, let's say 50 odd some years, we've been in this fiat currency world where it's a debt-based system, it's an interest-based system, and these are all completely haram. These are all forms of usury. The governments of today use legislation to create monopolies in all different types of industries to make steady business for whatever corporation that is probably bribing the politicians, as well as the banks, the central banks controlling the politicians, as well as they're the ones who are printing the money. So the corruption is just mounting with this environment, and Imam Mahdi, as well as the second coming of Jesus, peace and blessings be upon him, will be using the Sunnah money, God's money, which is gold and silver. We've been using gold and silver as legal tender for thousands of years, and the governments that think they're the sovereigns, they think they're the gods per se. A lot of human beings think they're sovereign beings as well. I hear in the spiritual community that the sovereignty word is thrown around very loosely. Oh, I'm a sovereign being, blah blah blah. So this couldn't be farther from the truth. So one of the two major things that I see that will be significantly different in the time of Imam Mahdi, as well as the coming of Jesus, peace and blessings be upon him, will be, as I've mentioned, we'll be recognizing Allah as supreme, the sovereign. All laws and commandments come from Allah, the unique creator of all that exists. He gives power to whom He wills and takes away power from whom He will. And the legal tender will be gold and silver. You can't just print more gold and silver. You actually have to mine it. There's only so much gold and silver on earth. So it is a limited supply. We don't know how much is on the earth, but it is definitely a limited supply. And it's a much more fair system to use, that you just can't go and print more money to buy off more politicians, buy off produce, pay big armies money to create more wars, to pay off politicians and bribe them to, create monopolies through legislation. They definitely go against Allah's laws. They don't recognize Allah as supreme. So I see those two things as the two major things in the time of Imam Mahdi's rulership, as well as the second coming of Jesus, peace and blessings be upon them. And by recognizing Allah as sovereign, by doing what Allah makes lawful, staying away from the awful things that Allah forbids, that will be how, Imam Mahdi will transform the world from injustice to justice, from poverty to abundance. They mention in the Hadith, the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, that he'll give out wealth without counting. Will give out the money from the treasury, which will be, I'm sure, mostly gold and silver. Amongst the people, will divide the gold and silver amongst the people from the treasury. The wealth will be owned by the Ummah, not by the central banks, that can, manipulate politicians, can manipulate wars through the use of printing money and spreading that around. So that's why the world is so full with corruption today. We see the stock market and other assets going up and up on a regular basis. That is due to the printing press. The central banks are printing more and more money. They have no choice to keep the Ponzi scheme alive. So they have to continue to print more and more money to prop up the stock market. As you see, the stock market just keeps hitting record high after record high. Cryptocurrencies as well are going higher and higher, which is sort of like Bitcoin, for example, is anti-fiat. There's only 21 Bitcoins to be minted, so it has a limited. It's very similar to gold, but in a digital way. It mimics gold, basically, Bitcoin. You have to mine it. It takes energy and power to mine it, which secures the network for transactions. So there's a lot of qualities in Bitcoin that are beneficial. But as for paper fiat and some of these other digital currencies, they can just print up money. They can just, by a keystroke, can put more numbers on the computer. But Bitcoin is different than that. I'm not going to get into the technicals of that, but so that's what's kind of going on. The central banks are constantly buying more assets, which is increasing the stock market, and the economy keeps dropping more and more. The wealth is being taken out of the middle class, and and into these richer pockets. So it's a very sadistic system. It enslaves humanity, enslaves all nations that are under this fiat system. They're under the they're under the foot of the central banks because they control the money. So those are the two major things that I see different in the coming of Imam Mahdi, as well as second coming of Jesus, peace and blessings be upon him. And if we were serious about the preparation of their coming, then we need to know some of these things. We need to prepare. I recommend having some good, valuable crypto. If you don't know too much about cryptocurrencies, like just have Bitcoin, because it's anti-fiat, it's anti-usury. So it guards against this. It hedges against the inflating dollar. We know the central banks have to keep printing more and more money to keep the Ponzi scheme alive, which dumps more money into Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is a hedge against the printing of money. And obviously, gold and silver has been suppressed for hundreds of years now. The price has been severely suppressed by these bankers. So having some gold and silver is very important to have too, because once the fiat collapses, and if the internet's still alive, then Bitcoin and other valuable assets in crypto that are non-fiat and they're not scams. There are quite a few of them out there, but there's lots of very good projects that are halal, are worth to have, and will be very beneficial to hedge against this inflationary usury system that we live in today. And gold and silver is actually cheap. It's been suppressed, like I said, for several hundred years by these bankers, because they want full control. They want to buy they want to buy all the assets in the world. They want to control the world by the fiat currency. They want to keep they have to keep printing more and more, buying more assets, because the economy will collapse. And if the economy collapses, then people are going to revert back to gold and silver. They're going to revert back to cryptocurrencies. I say that the internet's still alive at that point. So very important to have gold and silver. I've got a stack of silver. I got a bit of gold, and I've got some cryptocurrencies. I think cryptocurrencies will probably do better in the short term, and the long term, I think gold and silver will be the strongest play in the end. So those two things, the knowledge and the proclamation of Allah's supremacy, Allah's sovereignty, and the sunnah, the halal money, is a gold and silver as legal tender. So we're just gonna go look here at this book here, Organization of Divine Laws and Commandments of the Most High. We're going to be looking at the law of omnipotence, supremacy, and sovereignty. And if you want to have a copy of this book, just email me at divinelaws@protonmail.com, and I'll send you a PDF copy of this book. So we're just going to go read off here just to highlight the importance of the sovereignty of Allah. Gold and silver is mentioned about roughly 10 times in the Quran. It's been legal tender for thousands of years. We've used gold and silver. So we're gonna quickly go over a review here of the law of omnipotence, which means all powerful, the supremacy, the law of supremacy of Allah, and the law of sovereignty of Allah, which basically all kind of mean the same thing. So we're just going to go and just rapid fire through these Quran verses here. Whatever message we abrogate or abandon it, we bring a better message than that, or least the like of it. Do you know that Allah is indeed possessor of power to do all He wills? Do you not know that Allah alone belongs the sovereignty of the heavens and in the earth, and that you have apart from Allah neither a protecting friend nor a helper? God is the wonderful originator without depending upon any matter or pattern of the heavens and the earth. And when He issues a decree, He does but say to it be, and it comes to be. Say, O Allah, the Lord of all power, you grant power to whomsoever you will, and take away power from whomsoever you please, and confer honor and dignity on whomsoever you will, and disgrace whomsoever you will. All good lies in your hand. Verily, you are the possessor of full power to do all you will. There is no terrestrial creature that crawls in the earth, nor a bird that flies in the air with its two wings, but they are creatures like you, all subject to divine laws. We have neglected nothing in this perfect book of law, then to their Lord shall they all be gathered. If you do not help him, the Prophet, and know Allah has already helped him, when those who disbelieved turned him out from Mecca with only one companion, he being the second of the two, when they were both in the cave of Tahir, and when he said to his companion Abu Bakr, grieve not about me, surely Allah is with us. Then Allah sent down His Shekinah, peace and tranquility, upon him, and helped him with troops which were not visible to you, and He humbled the word of those who disbelieved to the lowest. And it is the word of Allah alone which is the supermost, and so prevails. Allah is Almighty, All-Wise. If Allah afflicts you with harm, none can remove it but He, and if He desires any good for you, none can stop His bounty. He bestows it on whomsoever of His servants He wishes, and He is the great protector, ever merciful. Allah is He who raised up the heavens without any pillars that you can see, and He occupies the throne of sovereignty. And He made the sun and the moon subservient to you. Each one of these planets pursues its course for a specified term. He explains in detail His messages so that you may have firm conviction of the meeting with your Lord. All those that are in the heavens and on the earth submit to Allah alone, whether they choose to obey willingly or not, and likewise do their shadows in the mornings and evenings, and they are all subject to divine law. And most surely we sent before you many messengers, and we gave them wives and children, yet it was not possible for a messenger to bring a sign but by Allah's command. For everything that has an appointed term, there is a divine law to regulate it. Allah repeals the laws relating to punishment that he will, and establishes and confirms what he pleases. And with him is the source and origin of all laws and commandments. And all persons shall humble themselves before the living, the self-subsisting, and all-sustaining God. And he who bears the burden of iniquity shall indeed fail in his objective. As he who has created the heavens and the earth, not the power of creating other people like them. Why not? He is the supreme creator and possessor of all knowledge. Verily, his command when he intends to evolve a thing is only that he says it to be, and it comes to be at proper time. Therefore, glory be to him whose hand lies in perfect control of everything, and towards whom you shall all be made to return. Say, all intercessions belong to Allah entirely. To him belongs the sovereignty of the heavens and the earth, and towards him you shall all be brought back. Allah is the creator of all things, and he is the authority over everything to control. Yet whenever these disbelievers see a sign, they turn away, paying no heed, and say, it is an oft-repeating and tremendous illusion. They have cried lies even to this sign, and have followed their own low desires, yet every decree of God shall certainly come to pass. All of the rational beings that are in the heavens and on the earth do beg of him. Every moment he manifests himself in a new state of glory. Whatever is in the heavens and whatever declares the glory of Allah, and he is the Almighty and All-Wise. Whatever lies in the heavens and whatever lies in the earth glorifies Allah. To him belongs the sovereignty and all the true praises as well. He is the possessor of power to do every desired thing. The kingdom of the heavens and of the earth belongs to him. He gives life and causes death, and he is possessor of power to do all that he will. It is Allah who has created the 7 heavens, and he has created as many earths. The divine law permeates through them. He tells you this so that you may know that Allah is possessor of all power to do every desired thing, and Allah encompasses everything in his knowledge. Blessed is he who holds complete supreme power. He is the possessor and prudential power to do every desired thing. Say, I have no power to avoid either harm from you or do you some good to you. Say, surely none can grant me shelter against Allah if I disobey him, nor can I find any refuge besides him. He is the very first, there was nothing before him, and he will exist to the last, there will be nothing after him. And when nothing remains, he will remain. He is the supreme being, subordinate to no one. And whereas he comprehends everything, he is incomprehensible. He has full knowledge of everything. It is he who created the heavens and the earth in 6 aeons, and he is established on the throne. He knows what goes down into the earth and what comes out of it, and he descends from above, and what descends from above, and what ascends to it. He is with you wherever you may be. Allah is watchful of all that you do. The kingdom of the heavens and the earth belongs to him. All matters are referred to Allah for his judgment. Allah has decreed, most certainly I will prevail in my messengers. Verily Allah is all-powerful, almighty. Whatever property and goods Allah has given as spoils to his messenger, and taken away from these enemies after they have made preparation for war against the Muslims, is of God's grace. You've made no expedition with cavalry or camelry for the attainment of this. Rather, the fact is that Allah gives his messengers authority over whom he will. Allah is possessor of every power to do every desired thing by him. He is Allah, besides whom there is no other, cannot be, and will never be one worthy of worship but he. He is the supreme sovereign, the holy one, the most perfect, bestower of peace, peaceful security, the guardian, the almighty, the compensator of losses, the possessor of all greatness. All holy is Allah, far beyond and above the things they associate with him. It is he who has created the 7 heavens, one upon another in conformity with each other. You can see no flaw, no incongruity, and no imperfection in the creation of the most gracious God. Then look up once more to heaven. Do you see any flaw? Look again and yet again to find out any confusion in divine law. The result will only be that your eye will return to you dazzled while it is weary, and you will be unable to find any discordance. Or who it is that can serve as an army to help you against the most gracious God if he intends to do you harm? The disbelievers are only laboring under a misconception in thinking to baffle the cause of Allah. And the truth is that the majesty of our Lord is exalted. He has taken to himself no consort, nor has he begotten a son. And we have come to know for certain that we can never frustrate the purpose of Allah in the earth, nor can we escape him in any direction. And your Lord do announce his supremacy. Verily, these disbelieving people love the present transient life and neglect the very hard day which lies ahead of them. It is we who have created them and strengthened their make, and we shall replace them with their like whenever we please. It is he who originates and continues reproducing, and he is the protector and most loving, the Lord of the throne of power, the Lord of all glory, absolute performer of what he intends to carry out, who creates all things and gives them suitable and perfect shapes. And to us belong all the blessings of both the next world and the present. Say, the fact is, he is Allah, the one and alone in his being. Allah is that supreme being who is the independent and besought of all. His unique and is besought by all, and unique is all his attributes. He begets none, and he is begotten by no one, and there is no one his equal. So those are some of the laws and commandments of Allah. Allah says here, it is he who originates the creation, and he continues reproducing the creation. So every moment he is recreating creation. So just like as a TV screen or a video, it's the pictures. The old TVs used to have 24 frames per second, so there'd be 24 pictures will be shown on screen per second. So that's how Allah says he originated the creation and then he reproduced it. So he's constantly, just like binary code, ones and zeros, like on and off. The creation is like that. It's created and uncreated, created and uncreated. It's happening so fast, possibly in the trillions of times per second, that we can't constantly perceive it or whatever. Just like we can't constantly perceive the frames of a TV screen that's flashing 24 frames per second, or our physical eyes cannot see the individual pictures. Allah is recreating the creation so many times per second, say in the trillions or bazillions. I have no idea how many times Allah is doing it, but he talks about it here that he continues reproducing the creation. So it's constantly on, off, just like binary code in a computer with ones and zeros. So I find that very interesting. So Allah can do whatever he desires. He can recreate and reproduce. He can create a creation and reproduce it. And depending on the choices you make and the desires of Allah, he can change the creation by adding new frames, you could say, to the creation at any given moment. So depending on the choices we make, will have an effect on the future creation of Allah, reproducing the creation. So it just shows you how much power Allah has, and these foolish governments and people think that they're sovereign beings when Allah is recreating and reproducing the creation so many times per second that he can do whatever he desires, and through the law of cause and effect, good or bad things can happen to you by Allah, and then you realize there's nothing that Allah can't do. So that just gives you a slight insight into the power of Allah, how he's manifesting this creation. It's sort of like a projector that has so many frames per second that we can't even perceive. And probably the higher in the heavens, higher we get in the seven heavens, closer to Allah, the frame rate will probably increase. Who knows how many times per moment that is occurring. I don't have knowledge of that, but that is how Allah says the creation is being manifested. So we can see that in our own technology of today in video. You're watching this on a video, it has certain frames per second. You can change the frame rate on the video. There's an option to do that. So and that's how Allah in a way is reproducing the creation through frames. And at any given moment, he can, depending on our choices and his desire, he can change the creation you know, say you do a good deed and get a reward in the future for that, well, Allah will put in new frames for, let's say, that new frames to give you that reward in the future or in the hereafter, or a punishment of some, you know, you went against Allah's laws, and then in the future at some point that you will be recompensed for your evil deeds. You know, and Allah can do that by, you know, adding new frames to the creation. So that's just a bit food for thought there. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you take Allah as your shield, and that we recognize that Allah is supreme. He is the all-powerful. He's the all-knowing, all-seeing. Everything is in the hands of Allah, the unique creator of all that exists, who has perfect control of everything and regulates all affairs. So in the time of Imam Mahdi, as well as second coming of Jesus, peace and blessings be upon him. Obviously, Jesus and Imam Mahdi will recognize Allah as sovereign, the sovereign being of the heavens and earth and all of creation, and will be implementing gold and silver as legal tender. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you take Allah as your shield, the unique creator of all that exists, and may the peace and blessings of Allah be with you. Thank you so much. Take care. Peace.